All right, man, peace. So, for many of you brothers who've been on my channel long enough, you know that oftentimes I like to delve into the nature of the woman. Why is that? Because so many of you brothers were never taught about life, you were never taught about the nature of the woman, and you make bad decisions following after the capricious, whimsical nature of the woman, and you end up looking back at your life with a sense of regret because no one warned you, nobody taught you. So there's a certain level of resentment that you're forced to live the rest of your life with because you bought into certain relationship paradigms that were fruitless from the beginning. Why am I saying all this? Because as I've stated in other videos pertaining to this topic, it's very obvious to me that one of the reasons why Carmelo Anthony has basically spent the last 4 to 5 years of his career like a leaf blowing in the wind is because of the very bad decision that he made in 2008, 2009, somewhere around there, to not depart for greener pastures in Miami and join up with his good friends, LeBron James and Dwayne Wade. Why do I believe that he turned down LeBron James's offer to join him and D Wade in Miami potentially in 2010? That's because he was concerned with the whims of his wife, Lala Anthony. Just my view of it. I believe that Lala Anthony was determined to get Carmelo Anthony to uproot himself and their family from Denver and get to New York or LA, but preferably New York, because that was the only way that she was going to be able to elevate her D-level acting career. I think that Carmelo Anthony listened to her. He got to New York, he tried to make the best of a bad situation, and he never quite fit in. And I believe that he still stays up nights thinking about what would have happened, how my career would be viewed differently had I teamed up with LeBron. And I think that that led to a certain amount of tension in their relationship. And that's why oftentimes the quote-unquote bond between them has been so tenuous. Supposedly, at least according to reports and according to some of the verbiage that she's going to put forth in this segment, they're back together, and that's a good thing. I hope that they work things out. I'm not somebody who sits back hoping that things don't work out. I think that when you put out negative energy, it comes back to you. Now, there's a difference between realism and negativity. Negativity is when you hope for the worst for people, when you really have no skin in the game. I always hope for the best for brothers especially. He chose this woman, hopefully they can work it out. But at the end of the day, I have little to no doubt that one of the main reasons why he's in the conundrum that he's in regards to his career is because he listened to her. And always understand something, brothers. When you're dealing with these women, especially when they're in their mid to late 20s, maybe even upward into their mid 30s, they're very confused as to why they make the decisions that they make. Most of their decisions are based in their emotions, which makes their decisions baseless. Okay? You have to be the one to steer the ship. And like I always tell you, brothers, if you're not where you want to be in your life in regards to your career or what have you, do not initiate a serious relationship with a woman. It's not going to work out for you. It's just not. You have to be where you need to be before you can join up with anybody else. And that's just the bottom line of it. So anyway, they're going to speak with Miss Lala Anthony. Of course, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
I want to talk about Carmelo Anthony.
Let's go.
You want to talk Houston?
That's right. Well, actually, before we even get to Houston, so the Knicks thing is over now.
Yes.
And what is the feeling in your household about how that whole thing went?
The feeling is that we had a great experience in New York, and it is sad that he's not here anymore because I shoot power here, our son is in school here, so just from a family level, not having him.
Right, exactly. That's the reason why you wanted him to force the trade to the New York area in the first place. For those of us who remember back in, I believe around that 2011 area, Carmelo Anthony was desperate to get out of Denver. And the two teams that he wanted to go to were either the Brooklyn Nets or the New York Knicks. Why is that? Was it because he was so desperate to play in New York because he's from here? Or Carmelo's actually from the Baltimore area? But who's from here? Lala Anthony was born and raised in the New York area. Now I know that Carmelo, for a certain portion of his childhood, was from New York, but for the most part, he's from Baltimore. And I don't really think he gave a shit whether he played in New York. I think that he did that. He forced that trade to one of the New York teams to appease her. And he still has to suffer the repercussions of it because he allowed her to lead him about. and he was not supposed to do that, but he was a young boy. She knew what she was getting when she snagged him. A young dude who lacked experience with life, and she could kind of puppeteer him. And she was very successful with that. You know, brothers, it's so interesting to me. That's why I always tell you about these so-called liberal black women. Always understand something about the woman in general. The woman is a survivor. Why do I say that? Because women know how to adapt to their surroundings far better than men. A man is going to rebel against certain things that he senses in his spirit are not correct. The woman, for the most part, is going to conform because she is a survivor. Look at this female Lala Anthony. Despite the fact that so many of these modern day so-called women of color claim to be woke, they always want to look like whoever the most prominent man in society's woman looks like. It doesn't matter what race they come from. Whatever race of man is in the preeminent position in society, whoever's in rulership, however his woman looks, is how the women of all the other races try to look. But to be quite frank with you, I think that the blonde hair suits her because blondes are known for being a bit dizzy, and as they say, blondes have more fun. All right? But I just think that brothers oftentimes are confused by the nature of the woman. All you have to know about the woman, for the most part, is that she is a survivor. She's an adapter. She's going to do whatever she has to do to survive. If the woman walks into a society and she's trying to figure out how to live, she's going to look for the strongest man there and say, okay, that's the penis that I have to suck. That's just the bottom line of it. What I'm saying might sound wild, but for the most part, that is how they survive. All right? So for the so-called black man, if he's looking for respect from the woman, that only comes with power. You have to accrue power. And it's not necessarily financial power. Wisdom is a sense of power. When you can answer a woman's questions, when she sees that you have a strong soul, a strong spirit, and you're not going to conform to her every whim, then she's going to be compelled to indulge in her curiosity about you. There are various forms of power. And there's no pun intended, saying that that's the name of the show that she's on. Point being is this, just to reflect back to the Carmelo Anthony situation. He was a very poor decision maker. He should have made her follow him, because he was and still is the A side in their relationship. And he allowed her to dictate terms once he signed that marriage contract. There was no need to do that. When you're a brother and you're making millions of dollars, the woman is not going anywhere. There was never a need for him to do that. But hey, it is what it is. What's past is prologue, and life is all about learning from your mistakes.
Having him here, it's been tough, but we had a great experience in New York. It has always been so great to us. We're both from New York, and they've been great. And still, with me being here, people, what are you trying to say? I can feel you trying to say.
Because someone else is talking.
So I just feel him.
Here I come. I've often wondered, and I've spoken to Melo about this in the past, and I've never understood this. The New York Knicks, let's just call it what it is. Damn it, they ain't been that good, Lala. They ain't been that good. All right.
One of the reasons why the Knicks have not been very good is not only because of their inept front office, but because their fans in the media act like bitches, i.e. you, Stephen A. Smith. You're always trying to put that pilot on the proverbial stove all the way up. You're trying to turn it all the way up. You always want the heat to be on maximum on your New York Knicks franchise. And that's one of the reasons why they're not operating optimally, because of people like you.
Right. They won the division championship. Melo, 54 games. Mike Woodson is the coach or what have you. Next season type.
And that was a dumb team. That was a team with talent, but they were very, very dumb. Jason Kidd raised their overall basketball IQ to a certain degree, but even Jason Kidd could not offset the low basketball IQ of Carmelo Anthony and J.R. Smith.
Tyson Chandler, a whole bunch of stuff going on, injuries, everything. But for the most part, they haven't won. He never really wanted to leave.
No, he didn't.
I don't understand why this man, 24 career 24-point per game scorer, you would think that he would want to go someplace
Right
else.
now.
Why?
Well, he's so loyal, and I tell him sometimes, I'm like, you're loyal to a fault sometimes, because he's such a loyal person, and he...
Let me say this, and I've touched on this sentiment in other videos. Brothers, you have to be very, very careful with your gifts, because sometimes your gift can be your curse. Loyalty is a gift. Very few people have it. A lot of people talk about it, but very, very few people are loyal. Very few. Most people don't even know what that term means. But loyalty is a gift. It can also be a curse. if you apply it in the wrong direction with the wrong person. Be very, very careful with your loyalty.
He didn't want to leave, but then when he realized that is what was going to happen, then he tried to make the best of the next situation.
And the next situation, excuse me for jumping in here, Max. He was in Oklahoma City.
Yes.
With Russell Westbrook.
Yes.
With Paul George. Didn't want to necessarily come off the bench. Now, I know you watch your basketball.
Oh, I'm very into that.
How did you feel?
I didn't feel like he should ever come off the bench, and I don't feel like he should come off the bench in Houston either, and I want to go on record saying that.
Explain why.
Because I feel like people are so quick to forget the caliber of player that he is.
Well, Lala Anthony, I have news for you. Hopefully Carmelo's not listening to you, but I will say this. I think that you made the statement that you just made because you're trying to play the loyal and dutiful wife. I get it. But at the end of the day, the best thing that you could have said in response to that question is, I think that Carmelo should confer with the coaching staff and they make the best decision for the team. I'm sure that you feel like you're doing Carmelo a favor by quote-unquote standing in his corner and asserting that he should always be a starter. But all things come to an end, not just all good things. All things, period, come to an end. And yes, Carmelo Anthony was a top-level starter in the late 2000s. We're now almost to the end of the 2010s. No, he should not be starting for a championship-level team in the NBA. One could make the case that he's really not a starter in the NBA anymore. I think that he'd be a dynamite player in the Big Three. I think that. But should Carmelo Anthony be starting for an NBA team right now? Not with the way that these teams play. The game is too fast. His defense is too poor. He's a bad rebounder, a bad passer, poor finisher. And as of right now, it seems like even his mid-range game has left him. So what really is he bringing to the table? His style of play is too deliberate. He's a 44-year-old trapped in a 33-year-old body. Or maybe it's the opposite. Maybe he's a 33-year-old trapped in a 44-year-old body. Maybe that's more appropriate.
Because in OKC it wasn't the right fit, and much love to Russ and PG, they're like family to us. It just wasn't the right fit, but all of a sudden we forget the previous, 14, 15 seasons that he's had in the NBA, and now all of a sudden it's like, well, he needs to be coming off the bench. No, him, James Harden, and CP will get it done, and I don't believe that he
Well, I mean, shit, Lala Anthony, no disrespect, but 14 years ago, you may not have needed that nip and tuck that you've gotten. Things change over the course of time. Carmelo Anthony can't go under the knife and get his explosiveness back. It's gone. So in the same way, you had to have procedures done for you to feel like you were the same woman you were 14 years ago. Carmelo needs that, but he's not going to get it. Not unless he's able to link up with LeBron James' doctor, his biochemist, allegedly.
They'll get it done, Lala.
I think they're going to go really far.
Oh, what do you mean very far, Lala?
All the way.
All the way as in championship?
I think they would definitely be a contender. They are going to give Golden State a run.
Why is he a better fit with those guys? Is it about the personal relationship, or?
I think, because he has personal relationships with, Russ and PG. I just think with CP running the point, I just think that that's going to be a better fit for Melo's type of game and his style of play.
And I've often brought...
Well, that's what you're hoping for. But as I've stated in other videos, I think that James Harden is going to become frustrated by Carmelo Anthony's style of play. That dribble, and then really not even being able to get his shot off proficiently anymore in the mid-range. I think that's going to frustrate James Harden. And now they have another player out there on the court who cannot guard his man one-on-one. When they had Trevor Ariza there, that made James Harden a better defensive player because all he had to be concerned with was his own man and maybe every once in a while a little bit of help defense. With Carmelo out there, now they have to be concerned with helping Carmelo guard his man because Carmelo Anthony cannot guard a statue.
I brought this up. First of all, let me be very, very clear on the record. Defensively, you lose Trevor Ariza, Luke Mbah-a-Moute. Obviously, that's a loss. But offensively, I've been on the record saying I think Melo makes up for that because he clearly is going to be much better offensively.
Allegedly, he's going to be much better offensively. But Stephen A. Smith is one of these guys who thinks that great scorers deserve emeritus status, like they should always be considered dynamite scorers, even though it's very obvious that they can't play anymore. Stephen A. Smith was the same guy on First Take getting upset when the ESPN analytics group stated that Kobe Bryant was going to be one of the worst players in the NBA. He got very upset. I think it was one year where Kobe Bryant was prognosticated to be something like the 30th best player in the NBA, and Stephen A. Smith blew a gasket. He ended up being something like the 90th best player in the NBA. Guys get old. That's life, man.
But the biggest thing for me is the relationship with CP3. They're incredibly close, is what I try to tell people. And if there's one person that can maximize even more out of Melo than anybody, it would be CP3.
They're in the Olympics already.
Well, I agree with that, Stephen A. Smith. I think that Chris Paul is probably the only point guard in the NBA right now that Carmelo Anthony could play with. I truly believe that, because Chris Paul is like the last of a dying breed of pure NBA point guards. The rest of these guys, they just want to put up shots. Carmelo Anthony could not play with Damian Lillard. He damn sure couldn't play with Russell Westbrook. He can't play with John Wall. He couldn't play with Kyrie, because all those guys right now are better scorers than Carmelo Anthony is. The only guy that he'd be able to play with is Chris Paul. So we'll see what happens. If Carmelo can't make this work, he might as well retire.
I say 1,000% correct. And they're actually together now in a mini camp just getting things started. And Mel has said that he just feels different. He feels really good, and he feels like this is the right place for him, and he's excited to see what's going to happen.
Well, go ahead.
No.
I wanted to switch gears because I want to talk about Serena. I think she's the greatest athlete of our generation. I know she's your friend. You were just supporting her at the U.S. Open. She was pregnant, won a Grand Slam, had her daughter, came back doing it again. And they said with tennis, like, you're done in your 20s.
Right.
You know, she's in her... What makes her so special?
Well, if you really want to know what makes her so damn special, she's built like the Dominican Sue. I mean, shit. The broad got shoulders like Dwight Howard. I mean, why you think she's so damn special? It's obvious they spliced some DNA.
She's just...
Allegedly.
We call her the GOAT, the greatest of all time. My son's like, Mom, we're going to see the GOAT. Yeah. She's one of my closest friends and just an amazing person, and has such strong determination and will, and motivates us all. Like, I can't even go to the gym every day, and she's like crushing it on all levels. So I'll call...
Well, you don't really need to go to the gym every day, Lala. I mean, let's be for real. You go to the nip tuck guy.
I'll call her like, I need some motivation, like, I need to get in the gym, I need to do this. But she's just amazing all the way around, and has taken on motherhood and still killing it in tennis. She's just amazing.
She doesn't want to slow down at all. She's made it very clear.
I've stated on many occasions, if she were a man, we would be calling her the greatest ever.
Well, Stephen A. Smith, once again, brother, I got news for you. If that's the only thing stopping you from calling her the greatest ever, you might as well not let anything stop you. Because, I mean, goddamn it. If she don't look like Wesley Snipes and Tu Wong Fu, I don't know who does. And I know people going to get mad at me for saying this. I really don't give a damn. Ain't nowhere in the world there's somebody going to tell me that her and Venus Williams were born females. You can get mad at that if you want to.
There's no one that has had a sustained level of excellence in the world of sports than her. Who is it? Who is it?
I think she is.
Well, we call her the GOAT, so we do say she's the greatest of all time.
Now, when you say we, who?
All of my friends, family, anyone in our circles, Serena is the GOAT.
Because you got to remember, you've been around CP3 and LeBron and D-Wade. I mean, do they call her the GOAT?
They call her the GOAT.
This is decades.
And none of them have had a baby.
This is why I reject a lot of that victimization mentality that the liberal sports media tries to promote in regards to Serena Williams. Serena Williams, other than LeBron James, is the most feted athlete on television today. As I stated in another video, if Serena Williams was a so-called Caucasian woman and Margaret Court was the so-called black woman that still held the record for the most singles championships in the history of women's tennis, you have so many so-called activist groups out here talking about the racism of the media, trying to promote Serena Williams as the greatest tennis player ever on the female side, even though she still had not even caught up with Margaret Court's record. At least respect the fact that there's a person that still has a record that Serena Williams has not caught yet. Is Serena Williams a great athlete in her sport? Absolutely. But do I believe that there's something rotten in Denmark with her? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it in my mind. In my view, both her and her sister, there's something rotten in Denmark with the both of them. And Richard Williams is very much aware of it. I think that he's right there with Tiger Woods and all the other monarch child parents who are part of the program.
A baby. Like, that's a whole different ballgame, and come back and just continue to kill it the way she does. And I had a great time yesterday.
I don't want to take it back to Carmelo Anthony.
No, you can go back.
Go ahead, man.
I guess we have to. What else are we going to say about Serena? She's amazing.
Nah, go ahead.
So, Carmelo comes out in the draft with LeBron and D Wade, and they're all close and everything. And LeBron's now won a bunch of championships. D Wade's won championships. And because Carmelo hasn't, he is not considered, when you talk about the greatest players of all time,
right.
How important is it, forget about him, to you that he wins a championship?
It's more important to me that he's happy in his situation than winning a championship. I want him to be happy.
Well, of course you want him to be happy now because you finally got that role on that top-notch show that you always wanted. Back about 7-8 years ago, you weren't that happy because you were trying to get your little acting career going. So you tried to push him to force that trade to a team in the New York area. I have no doubt that is the reason why Carmelo Anthony did what he did. And I'm sure that he looks back and he says, damn, I really should have joined up with Bron. But I mean, it is what it is.
Be happy. I just feel like these last couple of years have been a little turbulent for him, and I do feel like he gets the short end of the stick sometimes. He'll never say this, like he doesn't express these things. He
don't get no damn short end of no stick. Carmelo Anthony at his height was a very good, borderline great scorer. That's all he ever was. He's not an alpha on a championship level team, and he's done himself a disservice by constantly trying to mention his own name with LeBron James and with Dwayne Wade, and he's not on their level in regards to being able to play team basketball. He's just not on their level. Carmelo Anthony cannot take a team and put them on his back and lead them to a championship. Dwayne Wade has done that. LeBron James has done that. Those are just the facts.
He just kind of takes it, and I'm like,
he's mellow.
Yeah, I'm like, you're not going to say anything? Like, I'm about to say things. Like, just
So
leave
what do you
it
think would make him
alone.
happy?
I think, being on a team that feels like the right fit, and hopefully that's Houston, will make him happy. And yeah, winning games and, of course, winning a championship. But peace of mind to me is more important than winning a championship.
I think Melo is one of the greatest offensive players of this generation. My issue with Melo, and I got love for Melo. We go back a long ways. He knows how much I love him. My issue with him is that because he's Melo, he's been willing to accept, and we butted heads over this in the past. He's been willing to just accept folks coming at him and not prioritizing, putting himself in those situations where, okay, I'm tight with LeBron, but this man's been to 9 NBA Finals. He's won 3 championships. I'm cool with Dwayne Wade. He's been to 5 championships. He's got 3. I got to do everything that I can to put myself in that position. He hasn't.
Right, but Stephen A. Smith, what do you want him to do in regards to that? He's not as good as either one of those guys. And when he had the opportunity to join up with them, he missed the boat. So, I mean, what you want him to cry and scream? I give him credit for handling his fate like a man. He made his bed, he has to lie in it.
Because of the loyalty, like you said, he hasn't pushed for that. Have you tried to convince him on many occasions? Look, let's just get up and go. Let's just get up and go.
Yeah, that's exactly what she did back in 2010, 2011. When she told his ass, look, nigga, you better force a trade to either the Knicks or the Nets. Or I'm going to leave you here up in these mountains by your damn self. That's what she told his ass, allegedly.
My personality, so I'm always screaming in the background, but Melo is who he
Hey, she just told on herself.
who he is, and that's never going to change. He is mellow, loyal, but he's an incredible player, and it just bothers me that some people just forget that. One season at a place where it wasn't the right fit, now all of a sudden we just forget everything.
Peace of mind and right.
It's not about forgetting everything. It's about understanding that players, they have peaks, and once they're past their peak, we have to understand that. We have to acknowledge that. That's a part of life. Athletes die 2 deaths.
The right fit. Do you mean like if he is put in a situation where he feels like he's put in the best situation he can be put in, then whatever comes of that, that's okay because he'll give his best effort and be shown in the best light?
Well, I will say this. He always gives his best effort, no matter what the situation is. He plays hard and works hard, harder than anyone I know.
No, I don't mean to insinuate he doesn't give his best effort.
Yeah, he gives his best all the time, but I think peace of mind, he will excel even further. Knowing that I'm in a situation where I feel like I'm where I need to be, you're going to see the difference in his game.
So you think that situation is the case now, that he has peace of mind?
Yes.
Does that mean that he didn't have peace of mind in Oklahoma City, that he didn't have peace of mind in New York?
I think that at the end of New York, it was getting a little turbulent and not knowing what's going on. In OKC, it was just trying to figure it out. I think with Houston, he just feels like this is where I'm supposed to be, and I'm excited to see what happens.
He's in a good situation.
Well, let me say this. I hope that everything works out for Mr. Carmelo Anthony. I truly do. but I just don't see them defeating the Golden State Warriors. I think that the Warriors, they're just going to have too much talent. And Chris Paul, James Harden, and Carmelo Anthony are not going to be able to match up with that death lineup that the Golden State Warriors are going to be able to roll out. When you have a lineup of Draymond Green, Steph Curry, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson, and Boogie Cousins, and then you have Andre Iguodala and Sean Livingston coming off the bench, I just don't see it. But we'll see what happens.
Before we let you go, we know you like Houston. That's for different reasons. We won't get into that mess right now.
But anyway, that's pretty much it on Mrs. Lala Anthony giving her take, providing her perspective on Serena Williams, and her on-again, off-again husband, Carmelo Anthony. I'm just playing. I'm glad that they're working everything out, and I hope that they continue to work everything out. So peace.